the agenda. We'll briefly discuss some improvements to the country kit happening, most of which were driven by users, which is really, really encouraging. We will do two jobs. We'll show a very quick job of a simple widening from Greg Smith, who's been this recently, which is a nice simple job for just taking a road and widening at existing grade. We'll also do the job we promised Blacktown Council's job. So we'll show some graphics on that and go through it, and that's the main presentation. So, very briefly, the improvements to the country kit. Now, many of you would have noticed that on the long sections on the current template, there were some gaps and they were quite clunky. I was done in a hurry. We've had some good feedback from Peter Thompson and Andrew Puller, who have basically sent me a corrected one, which I will show you in a while. I'll show it to you right now. Let me just switch to Vegetable. So this is the cross sections that have been sent, which have been fixed up. That was through Dean and Chris. Now let me find my other file here. It's on my desktop. We got this. Here we go. Now this was sent to Andrew Puller. So what he's done here is he has basically fixed the issue I was having with the gaps in the long sections and made the whole thing work perfectly. So let me just slow down a bit so your screen can catch up. So basically those two are going to be included on the country kit. Now what we like about this as well, I'll just jump back into the PowerPoint. What we like about this is that the dialogue happens on our forums. So you can basically go to the forums, you can download the file I mentioned. We've also had a comment this morning from Paul Baker. We've got some suggestions on the layers, which will also get taken on board. So keep those coming, and they will be on the next update, which is due very, very soon. One more thing, I should have stated in my civil. Sorry for all this switching of screens, but I'll settle down in a second. On the current template, you will have seen on the QTO manager, we have some RTA New South Wales standards. So what we've now got is the making of the Queensland Main Road standards. So your screens should just be showing the QTO manager, and I've just expanded out Queensland Main Roads. It's a work in progress. It'll be done by Monday. So if anyone's got more standards for pay items, please send them through to us and we will get them included on the country kit. So we'll do more of that in a second. Now, let's just jump back into PowerPoint. So, the first thing we're going to do here is a simple widening job. And we're going to use these Reconstruction subassemblies, which are definitely our favorites. So, let's just jump into this one straight away. Now, I'll just minimize a few drawings here. So this is the job. What you'll see is the set of contours represent an existing road, and we basically want to widen existing grade. So on this view you should just be seeing now, on your left hand side, that is the shaded view, and the red string you see, that is the saw cut line. So we want to take the grade coming into that saw cut line and project it out further. Now if I can find my subassembly here, I'll just zoom to this. So I'm right clicking on the prospector on my assembly set and I'm zooming to it. So what you should see here on the bottom right is the widen overlay assembly. Now I'm just going to do it briefly and go to the help for it. So I'll get it in here, right click and go to properties. Now I'm going to go to my parameters tab when that opens. So it's just coming up now. I'll go to parameters and I press the help button on the bottom right. Now, we discussed this briefly in a previous webcast, so I won't go into much detail, but this diagram is a good reminder of what happens. Our insert point here, which you'll see on the top, that is our saw cut line. It's going to take the grade of the road coming into that saw cut line and project it as far as we tell it to go. So, in a nutshell, let's just do it and show how it works. So what I'm going to do here is go to my Home tab on my Civil. I go to Corridor, and I select Create Simple Corridor. So that is going to ask me for a corridor name. I will type widen. Then I press OK. And what I will now get is a request for which horizontal geometry, which vertical geometry, and which cross-section to use. So if it asks me for my horizontal geometry, I will pick my saw cut line. I'll do it by right-clicking and selecting saw cut from the list. So I've done that. It asks me for my vertical geometry. So I will also right-click, and on that saw cut alignment, I've sampled natural surface. So we've done no vertical design here. I pick natural surface. It then asks me for my assembly, so I'll pick my widen to right assembly here. So I'll right-click, select widen to right, and I get presented with my target mapping dialog box. So for this to work, you must tell the software which surface to use. So I press surfaces here, and I click on existing road. Now, if I press OK at this stage, it will widen to a fixed width. I don't want that to happen. I want it to widen to a certain alignment. So I go to my width option here, which I just highlighted. I press the button and I select this alignment here, Bridge Street EOB New Right. I press my Add button. I press OK and press OK again. And the software builds this new widening for me. So if we go to our corridor and rebuild that, we should see this in our isometric view up in the top screen now as well. So what it's actually done is taken the existing grade and projected it out to that new string for me. Now what I can do here, at the moment it's doing an overlay. I can go to my subassembly, I can right click and select subassembly properties. And when I go there, I go to my parameters tab, and I will see an option for overlay depth. So it's currently on 100 mil. If I change that to 0, it will just take the existing grade and project that straight across without doing any overlay. So that's one of the most popular ones, where people just want to literally take the existing grade of the road and project it out. Having done that, what we should now see on the top left here on the widening is that an exclamation mark has appeared. So I'm going to right click that, just give your screens a second to catch up, and I'm going to select rebuild. So when I press rebuild, you should watch the shade view on the left, and you will see that the road jumps down. So it's now blending exactly into the existing topography and pushing the grade out further. So that's how easy it is to model the actual widening. Now Greg, who gave us this, had some issues with the cross sections, which have been sorted out by Dean. So he has requested we do a webcast on this topic of the cross sections and long sections. So at the end of today's webcast, we'll ask your opinion on that. So let's just jump back into the PowerPoint. That was just a kind of a brief, kind of an intro into these Rehab subassemblies. Now I think most guys understand how these work. The challenge people have is using them in conjunction with other assemblies. So the purpose of this big job that Blacktown have given us, very kindly, is to show how you combine these and achieve the desired task. So, okay, we've just done that. Now, if you've got your scratch pads in front of you, printed out, you will see this is one of the screen captures from it. So the drawing on the top is the existing scenario. The drawing on the bottom is the new improved scenario. So the thing to notice from the top drawing is that there is an existing service road. So it's on the bottom of our screen, and that has to be maintained and not changed. So it's kind of like a reference point for us. What I haven't shown on this, I've actually frozen quite a few layers, is that there is an existing boundary on the other side of the road. So as we build this and do our batters, we can't cross this boundary line. So if necessary, we build retaining walls, but we just literally cannot cross that line. So what I would do here is just make some notes about that service road, because that's going to be more and more relevant throughout the presentation. And you can just kind of scribble your notes on this as we go on. Now, this one here is a cross-section view. Now this, let's give your screen a second. This view actually is a screen capture from Civil 3D. So what we're showing here is the reconstructed road. So you will see, I've done some serious vertical exaggeration. I've made the cross-sections much bigger, so it seems a bit out of scale. But what you'll see is that our center line is in the middle of the median. The existing service road is shown on the right, and as I've noted here, the design levels must match into the existing level at that point. And then on the left-hand side, that existing boundary has to be adhered to. Now, I've taken that boundary and made it more jagged just to make it have a higher impact on our actual presentation. But that's just to show what we can do with the constraints in that area. Now, in essence, the way we're going to approach this is the following. Our center line is going to be in the median, as I mentioned. Point number 2, which you should see on your screens now, so the arrow going to point number 2, that's where our design starts from. We absolutely have to match that point. So we're going to take that level and work our way across over our center line to the left-hand side of our template. Now, when I first started this, I was thinking, well, why not just design the whole road from the left-hand side and ignore the center line? The reasons you wouldn't do that are, first of all, that you want your cross-sections to actually have offsets based on the center line, and also the two lines are not parallel. So as the service road veers left and right, it would mess up the rest of our road. So there's a trick how we do this, which we'll go through, but essentially the thing to pick up from this is that we're starting in the middle, we're jumping to the right, and then working our way back across the entire template to the left-hand side. So let's just show some more of this. Now the slide coming up shows the actual assembly set on the bottom of the screen. So point number 1, which is on the bottom here, let me just turn my marker on so I can scribble on this. So let me do a felt tip pen here. So point number 1, I'm just circling it here. That is where we insert our assembly. We're then going to use a generic link to push everything over to this point here. That's going to allow us to jump from the center line straight across to the right-hand side of our road. We will then do a sequence of operations and project our way the whole way across the road using various strings as guidelines, get to the end, do our batter, and tie into that line. So the whole trick is starting in the middle, working to the right, and back across to the left. Now, this slide here we'll come back to maybe a little bit after the presentation, but this just shows it in some more detail. So the assembly insertion point is the first thing we do, which is that one here. This first one is going to be a generic link, so I'm just mentioning the actual details here, generic link coming in. That brings us up to the relevant point. We then do a standard lane, which represents our existing service road. That goes to the right. Going to the left, we have a curb and gutter, and then we have a generic link to represent our landscaping areas, and then a sequence of similar assemblies to allow us to work our way across. Now this cross-section is on your scratch pads as well, so by all means scribble down notes as we go on here. So let's just dive into it and show how it works. Now let me close a few drawings here. Okay, so what I've got here is my working drawing on the top, and on the bottom I've got an AutoCAD drawing of the cross-section we're working on. So I want to refer to that cross-section as we go through this, so I'll just put it down here. Now, I don't want to go over time on this, so I'm going to skip zooming around and showing you all the actual strings and everything else. What I'll do first of all is turn on the finished jobs to show you what we're working towards. This is my existing corridor. I'm just going to select it, right-click Properties, and I've turned on the actual baselines. So when I press OK, it shows the finished job. And what I'll do next is turn that off, and we'll do it from scratch. So I'm just going to switch briefly to a shaded view, so your screen might lag a small bit here. So if I go to, I've saved a view here. What's cool on this ribbon is that when you save views, I've called mine Perp for perspective. I can just select it here, and it should jump to that view for me. Right, so what we're doing here, let's give your screens a few minutes to catch up because there's quite a bit of bandwidth being chewed up. What we're seeing here is the same screen capture I was showing you a while ago. This is our corridor model with the various strings below it. I think you're just catching up about now. And the work has all been done. Now when I was doing this, I had my window on the bottom, as you can see right now, and my window on the top. So as I was getting confused about which string matched which boundary, I was referring back to my cross-section all the time. So that's the reason that we're making the big fuss with scratch pads. What I'm going to do now is switch back to a plan view and build up the assembly. I'm going to turn this corridor off and redo it from scratch. And I'll get close to the end of it, and then we'll just jump into a saved version to show how it works just at the last step. So we'll go back into the top view here. And we'll switch back to 2D wireframe. Now, I know I'm jumping ahead of the actual screen catch-up at the moment, but our bandwidth here isn't as fast as the other office, so I want to just get to a stage and get on to the important work. So when you catch up, what you will see is the start of making a new road. So I'm making a new assembly, and I'll type in the name once the screens show up here. Okay, so my new name is going to be Road Recon. So I press OK. I'll put that in here. That's my new cross-section point. Now, on the PowerPoint, we mentioned the first thing we have to do is offset ourselves to the right. So what I've done here is I've put the relevant assemblies I want to use on a 2 pallet by itself, saved running around the place. So the first one I want is link, width, and slope. So I press that, and I want to link to the right-hand side. So I'll select to the right. The width I want to go to is going to be, we'll say, 6 meters. This is arbitrary because we're going to change it with the alignment strings anyway. And the slope, I'll give, say, 30% to make sure it stays off my main cross-section so I don't get confused. Now that's enough to begin with. I attach that here, and what we will see is a simple line coming off our center line to allow us to offset the left-hand side, or to the right-hand side. So that's good. That's our starting point. We'll now build our service road. We press, I always use lane outside super because you can do a lot with overriding parameters. This is going to go to the right-hand side, and we'll give it a width of a certain value, which we change anyway, a slope of -3%. And again, we'll change that slope with our strings anyway. So we attach that here. So that's going to be our service lane. We then go and build a curb and gutter. So we've got curb and gutter here. There's a few tricks to this one. So this is actually on the left-hand side because we're working back across from the left, and we're going to attach it via the gutter edge. And I put that in here as well. Now, I'm not paying too much attention to my values for subgrade and everything like that. That's just something you can work on in your own time, I suppose. And I'll just do one more, then we build a corridor and see how it shapes up. So I'll do my link, width, and slope. So this will represent the landscape area. So this is going to go to the left, and it's going to get a value of, we'll say, 1 meter. Again, that's going to be changed anyway. What I will do here is for my link codes, I will also call it landscape. If I want to build a surface model later on of just my landscape area, I can build model, select landscape, and that will work for me. I'm going to have to zoom in here to pick my correct area. So I just rolled in, and I'm going to select that clip on the curb and gutter and attach my landscape area here. Now, I should have made that wider, but I don't really care because I'm going to change the values anyway in a while. Now, I want to illustrate how this works, so what I'm going to do is switch to 2 viewports. So I'll go back to my view on my ribbon, and I will set viewports to vertical. Now on my second here, what I want to do is, actually I'll switch back to that shaded view so we can see what's happening. So what I plan to do here is leave this shaded view open, and as I make changes to my cross section, we'll refresh and see the actual dynamic view updating for us. So to begin with, I go and I build my corridor. So we go to Home, we will say Corridor, Create Simple Corridor. So we call this Recon 2, press OK. We're working on the center line. Now it asks for a profile of that center line. It doesn't really matter because we're doing the widening anyway, but I'll just pick natural surface to give it something to work off. And then my assembly, I pick this one here. Now, if I just press OK at this stage without making any changes, what we'll see is a corridor appearing on the right hand side, and the widths are going to be all incorrect and everything like that. So you can see, first of all, the offset has come from the center line, and our service road is hanging up in midair. So it needs some refinement. Let's go back into our properties. Now we're not building the whole road at this stage. We're just doing chainage ranges 200 to roughly 800. Also, on our targets, the width alignment for my offset takes the value from, let me get this right, it's the inside of my service road. So I add that here and press OK. Now it also takes the profile from the same area. So let me just give you a screen a second to catch up. So what I do is go to my profiles and select service road inside as well. I pick my survey and press add. And now I'm going to press OK and OK to all these dialog boxes. When it's done, what you will see is the graphic on the right hand side changes. So the offset, the kind of magenta line, is now stretched to match that survey string. So let me just zoom in here a little bit so you can see what I mean. I want to minimize zooming and panning on this graphic screen because it's going to slow down things quite a lot. What you should see here is the alignment has been stretched out to that point. Now if you look at the scratch pad, I'll just show this very briefly, then I'll turn it off. On this screen just here, what I'm showing here is existing service road. I'm showing which part of the cross section it is and which part of the plan view. So we've just achieved that. We have taken our cross section, brought it out, and stretched that point. Now I'm going to leave this minimized so your screens don't get too cluttered with feedback. Now the next step is we have to get rid of the purple line. That's great for a reference, but we don't want to see it on our cross sections or our views. So I'm going to select that on my top left viewport. I'm going to right click and go to Subassembly Properties. And there's a thing here which is a very useful switch under my parameters. So the very first option I have is called Omit Link. I'll select yes for this and I'll press OK. That means the link still exists for reference purposes, but it won't actually be shown on the drawing. So what you'll see now is that my assembly set on the left viewport, that now is not showing the link. It's still on my shaded viewport on the right hand side because I haven't rebuilt my corridor yet. So let me right click and rebuild that corridor. So what we've now got is we've taken our center line and we've done the first step. We have jumped across the right hand service road and built that. What we'll now do is continue that design right across to the other side. So let's first of all do some good practice here. What I should be doing throughout my session here is renaming these. So that lane I've added for my service road, I should rename that to service road. Just so that when I go to change my parameters, I know which one it is. So I'll do that. I'll do the same for landscape. So I'll click Subassembly Properties, and I'll change that generic link to landscape area. So we'll press OK. Now, here's the next thing we do. Go back to our corridor properties and tell the software where the landscape area goes to. So go back to our targets. So it's right click, I've gone into corridor properties. I'm going to press select targets. Now, what you'll notice here is that we've now got more intelligent names. You will see service road and landscape area just from holding my mouse right now. So that means that we can actually carefully pick which strings go to which part of our cross-section. If you don't name them properly, that's more difficult. So we want our landscape area to go as far as the landscape area southbound string. So if you name these strings correctly, it becomes pretty simple to do this. So I press add and OK for that. We also want our service road to have the correct width. So we'll press service road takes service road outside for the width. I press the add button again. And press OK. And what I should do as well is set the vertical of my service road. So I would press the button for my slope targets. Go to service road outside, pick this, press add, press OK, and OK. Now, once you use this dialog regularly, it becomes very, very intuitive. And once you have that bit of paper in front of you, so you can correlate which name corresponds to which string, it becomes a simple process. So I press OK to this, and what we'll now see on the right-hand side is the road, my service road, has actually widened out, and my landscape area is now tapering into the correct values. We're making some progress. Now, just referring to the bottom screen here briefly, what we've done is we've built, I'm just going to highlight the graphics, we've built the actual curb and gutter, the service road, and the landscape area. The next thing we have to build is the main carriageway. So what we're going to do is go back to our assembly sets, and we're going to add another curb and gutter. So I press Urban Curb and Gutter General. Now here's where it gets a bit clever. We want to attach the curb and gutter to the opposite side of our landscape. Instead of using the gutter edge as the attachment point, I'm going to switch it and select the back of the curb. So I want to turn it the opposite direction. So I press that. I'll just zoom in real quickly. I'll give the screens a few seconds to catch up. Now, when you catch up on this zoom, I would press the actual insertion point, and what you'll see is the curb and gutter is attached facing the correct direction for the correct point. Now, ignore the scale on my cross-section here. This is arbitrary. When it's put onto the drawing, it'll be set to the correct dimensions. So that gives us a curb and gutter. What we now do is add our main carriageway. So we will go to lane outside super. We're going to the left-hand side. We want a slope this time of plus 3%. And we will zoom in again. And I will attach that to the correct point. Now what you should see on your screens now is the new carriageway attached onto that road. Now we're going to change the actual width of that carriageway. So what we should do is take it, right click, and go to Subassembly Properties and rename it to a sensible name so we can find it easier in our second. So this is actually the southbound lane. So call it lane southbound. I actually took this drawing and rotated it. It was originally north-south as opposed to east-west. So we press OK to that, and it's attached in here for us. What we'll now do is go back to our current model. We'll right-click and go to our properties, and we will tell it to set targets. So we've now got lane southbound here. So we must tell the software which string is going to control the width of that. So we press again the width button here. You will see median left and median right. I think what I want is median right. I should have named these a bit better. So we'll say median right and see what happens. We press OK, and press OK, keep coming out of this. So what we're hoping to see now on the right hand side in the shaded view is the main carriageway attached to our drawing and stretched onto our median. And it's worked properly. You can see how it's tapering just on the end closest to us. That's where the right hand turn lane starts. So we've now basically on our bottom screen where the cross section is, we have built everything across here. Let me just change the color of these to something that's pretty obvious. I'll make these green. So on the bottom drawing, on the bottom of your screens, the areas in green are what we've done. So we've gone to the right and we're progressively working our way across towards the other side. So what we need to do is median. So let's go back to our assembly collections and let's check in what we need for the medians. Now, if you look at the cross sections on your scratch pad, you will see that the curves on the median are different to the curves for the main roads. So what we're going to do is use the exact same one, but change the parameters. So I press curb gutter general again, but I will say I want to change some parameters. So let me get this correct. I want to change my B dimension to 0.01. I'll show you a graphic in a second which explains why I'm doing this, but I want to do that. I want to attach left and gutter edge again. So it's going to have to zoom in here quickly. And just give your screen a second to catch up. When I press this point, my curve comes in here. Now actually I forgot to do one of the parameters I should have done. So let me just close this and pick my curve, right click, go to Subassembly Properties. And what I'm going to do is go to my parameters and I'm going to find the sub-base extension, which I'm just highlighting now. I'm going to change that to 0. So on the normal roads, we want sub-base to extend past the curb and gutter. For the median, we don't want that. So I change sub-base extension to 0. Now, if you've got any doubt about these, all you do is press the Subassembly Help button on the bottom right. And, okay. That wasn't too cool. Okay, my screen just crashed. 1 second. I do have quite a few applications open here, so let's just reopen this. This is live and real demos, I suppose, huh? We see what happens in reality. But I should save that along the way. I didn't, of course. So what I'll do is I'll refer back to my saved version and show you the final few steps in there, because it's just repetition from here on in anyway. Let's go and open my Recon one. And let's just bring up that corridor property for us. Now, I'll just show the targets here in 1 second. So this is my final targets selection. So we had gone about halfway through this before that unfortunate crash. So we had just done lane southbound. We were about to do median. The process is more or less the exact same thing. You do lane northbound, urban sidewalk. I had a few of those. and then a daylight for the final batter. And that's it. Once that's done, you've built your model, and what you can do from there is start showing cross-sections and tweaking it and making it work better. So let's just go and do a section here. So I'll do a sample line from the ribbon. I'll right-click and select CL1. I'll say I want to look at both of these, my corridor and my surface. I'll press OK, and I'll pick this station here at random. So it wants me to give a distance for left and right. So I'll do this graphically. So what you should now see is a yellow line representing my cross-section area. The next thing I do is go to Section Views and Create Section View. Now, these section views are going through a bit of a metamorphosis because we've got a lot of really good feedback. But on the default one, what you see is this, where you've got the cross-section showing up in this format. Now, I know mine looks huge. I used exaggerated dimensions because I wanted the graphics to show up in the PowerPoint. So ignore the fact that it's so deep. What you can see is the magenta represents the existing surface, and the assemblies are what I built on top of it. So you can go section by section to look at this very, very easily. All you do is go to your View tab, pick your two viewports on horizontal. So the top one we're going to keep as it is, and the bottom one we'll zoom back to that yellow line. So what I'm going to do when your screen gets up here is I'll pick the bottom one and just change the sample width slightly. And then I'll drag it forwards and backwards along my chainage range. So as I change my width, you'll see that on the top my section view updates. And then I will pick this and drag it to a new area, and I will see my section view updating for me. So it's actually quite a simple process to achieve this. And all we now do is decide if we're happy with these vertical profiles, if we need to override these with new designs, and just work our way through it from there. So aside from that unfortunate crash, it worked quite smoothly. Now, we're going to discuss this in more detail in a future webcast, but the philosophy behind the method I use for the cross-sections in this template was that we can get values without building surfaces, which is what we've got here. There's merit to building surfaces and using the method as well, so we'll probably put both methods up, and we'll get a discussion going on the forums about which is the best. The plan at this stage is to include both options in the template and allow the users to pick which one they see as being most relevant. Now, we're just approaching towards the end of the hour. Let's quickly jump back into the PowerPoint and check what we've missed. So that was the demo of the dataset. Blacktown Council were very, very generous in giving us this dataset. Kingsley actually helped me out and gave me a drawing and pointed out where the various strings were. I made several changes to it to make the actual demonstration more obvious. So the plan is, when I'm finished with it and have done it properly, I'll give it back to Kingsley so we can play around with it. So we'll be very happy to receive more of these datasets for these presentations. Now, there's a few things I've skipped on this. There's actually quite a lot in the dataset. There's a roundabout, there's an intersection, there's a bunch more things there. So I would like myself to do a lot more on it. I actually like the reconstruction work, but we're going to be governed by the feedback we get from you guys. So what we didn't show is the right turn lanes. And what I'm showing you here on the right hand side of the screen is from the help file. So if you look on the bottom part of it first of all here, the dotted line is the road center line. And we've all come across a situation where our medians cross back over the center line. Now on this demonstration I gave you today, I cheated. I only did from here backwards. So I conveniently only worked the median was on one side of my center line only. There is an assembly built specifically for crossing over the center line. It's called lane from tapered median. And these graphics are showing how it works. This is my center line here. So if it's on one side, it just stays there. If it crosses over my center line, it projects its grade through it and works from there. If I tried that on the one I showed you today, some errors come out of it. So we can do a new version of this where we actually use that assembly. which is what I'm mentioning here. It's a really powerful part of the software, so I like showing it, so hopefully we can do that. Intersections are obviously relevant, and roundabouts. So again, the forums are the place to actually leave us know how to take care of all this stuff.